Hey, thank you for clicking the video. Please support the channel by subscribing and let's begin to fill in the squares by adding the integers. So let's start with -2 plus 5. So let me go ahead and write that down. -2 plus +5 equals. So anytime you're adding two numbers with opposite signs, look at the -2 and the +5. They're both different, or they both have different signs. You want to apply the rule of sign for adding opposite signs. So let's go ahead and use the rule of sign for adding opposite signs. And there are three simple steps that you want to take. The first step is to identify the absolute value of both numbers. So let's go ahead and do that. So the absolute value of -2 equals 2. And the absolute value of 5 is 5. And then the second step is to subtract the absolute value. So they want us to subtract the absolute value of the larger number minus the smaller number. So 5 is bigger than 2, so we need to subtract 5 minus 2. That gives us, so 5 take away 2 is 3. And then the last step is to take away the sign from the original number that gave you the larger absolute value. So 5 is the larger absolute value. It came from the original number here, this +5. So we need to take that sign from the +5, or that 5, and then give that 5 to the 3. So the answer becomes +3. Or just 3. So let me just fill in the box for -2 plus 5. All right, we're done with that problem. Let's move on to the next one. All right, I just need to erase the second number and just add in the next number. So now we're at 3. So -2 plus 3, -2 plus 3. All right, again, we're looking at we're adding two numbers with opposite signs, so we need to use the rule of sign for adding opposite signs. So the first thing we need to do is to identify the absolute values. So the absolute value of -2 is 2, and the absolute value of 3 is 3. And then we need to identify which of the two absolute value is bigger than the other, because that's step 2. Subtract absolute values, large minus small. So 3 is bigger than 2, so we need to subtract 3 minus 2. That gives us 1. And then the next step is to take the sign from the original number that gave you the larger absolute value. So 3 is the absolute value that's bigger than 2, so we're looking at 3. And then the original number is this 3 up here. There is a positive sign before the 3. It's invisible, but it's there. So we're going to take that positive from that 3 and then give it to the 1. So the answer is +1 or just 1. Let me just write that in there. 1. Cool. All right. Erase all this. All right. Now we have to solve -2 plus -2 equals. Now, anytime you're adding two numbers with the same sign, you apply this rule, the rule of sign for adding same sign. So all you have to do is, when you identify, hey, both numbers have the same sign, then you add both of them, add both, and then keep the same sign. In this case, we're going to keep our answer negative. So 2 plus 2 is 4, and we keep it negative because both numbers that we're adding, they both have negative signs. So the answer is -4. Easy. All right, next row. Erase all this. Next row. 7 plus 5. So let me go ahead and write that down. 7 plus 5 equals. Now you can write it like this. Plus or +7 plus +5 equals. Now both numbers you're adding, they both have the same sign, so you just add them both and keep the same sign, so our answer should just stay positive. So 7 plus 5 equals, so 7 plus 5, that's 12. So the answer is 12, or +12. So let me go ahead and write that into the box for 7 plus 5. All right, next problem. Erase all this. Okay. 7 plus 3. We're here now. 7 plus 3. So let's go ahead and write it like this. 7 or +7 plus +3 equals. All right, so we're adding two numbers with the same sign. So 7 plus 3, we're using these, not these steps, this only step 1 for the rule of sign for adding the same sign. So 7 plus 3 is 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we keep it positive because the signs, both numbers that we're adding have positive or positive signs. They both have the same sign as positive. So 10 is the answer. There we go. All right. Last one for this row. We have 7 plus -2. So -2 equals. So now we're back to the rule of sign for adding opposite sign because the 7 is positive and the second number, -2, is negative. So we're adding two numbers with opposite signs. So we need to use the rule of sign for adding opposite signs. So the first thing we need to do is to identify the absolute values of both numbers. So the absolute value of 7 is 7. And the absolute value of -2 is 2. And then we need to subtract the absolute values for the larger absolute value and the smaller absolute values. So we need to identify which of the two is bigger than the other. So 7 is bigger than 2. So we need to subtract from large to small. So 7 minus 2. 7, take away 2 is 5. And then the last step is to take away the sign from the original number that gave you the larger absolute value. So 7 is the larger absolute value, but going back to the original number, which is +7, we're going to take that positive sign and then give it to our 5. So the answer is +5 or just 5. Easy. Erase all this. And now we're finishing up with the last row. So 9 plus 5. 9 plus 5 or +5 equals. Okay, so we are adding two numbers with the same sign. Both of them have positive signs to them. So all we have to do is just add them both and keep the same sign, which is positive. So 9, 10, so 9 plus 5. 9 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 is the answer, and it's positive. So the answer is 14. All right. Next problem. Nine plus 3. So 9, or positive 9, plus positive 3. Either way, we can just write it like this. Same thing. Again, both numbers have the same sign, so all we have to do is add them and keep the same sign. So 9 plus 3 is 9, 10, 11, 12. So the answer is 12. 12. That is the answer. Okay, the last problem for the last row. -2. So 9, or positive 9, plus -2 equals. All right, we need to apply the rule of sign for adding opposite signs because both numbers have opposite signs and we're adding them, so we need to apply that rule. All right, so let's identify the absolute values for 9. So the absolute value of positive 9, or 9, is 9. And then the absolute value of -2 is 2. The next step, subtract the absolute values. Large minus small equals. So 9 is bigger than 2. We subtract 9 minus 2. 9 minus 2. We take away 2 is 7. So 9, 8, 7. That's the answer. Well, not yet. And then we need to finish the last step, which is to take away the sign from the original number that gave us the larger absolute value, which is 9. So we just take that positive from the 9 of the original number and give it to the 7. So the answer becomes positive 7 as the answer. Cool. And just fill in the box for 9 plus -2. And there you go.